Text came in at 11:47 on a Tuesday night, and I almost didn't see it. I was already in bed, half watching something forgettable on my phone, when the screen lit up with a number I didn't recognize. No name. Just a message that stopped everything. Uncle Tate, it's me. I'm scared. Please don't tell them I texted you. I sat up so fast I knocked my water glass off the nightstand. My nephew Colby was 7 years old. He wasn't supposed to have a phone. Last I heard, he was living with my brother's in-laws, the Murchisons, while my brother Lance was finishing a second stint in rehab out in Arizona. That arrangement had been going on for about 4 months, since the car accident that killed his wife, my sister-in-law Renee. Colby's maternal grandparents had stepped in almost immediately. They seemed stable. They seemed reasonable. I had no reason to think otherwise. I typed back fast. Colby, where are you? Are you okay? 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. I'm in the laundry room. I'm not allowed in the kitchen after 6. I haven't eaten since lunch. I read that sentence 3 times. It was 11,047 at night. I called the number. He picked up on the first ring, voice barely above a whisper, and the sound of it, that small, careful quiet, made something tighten hard in my chest. Hey, I said. Hey, it's me. I've got you. Talk to me. I found Grandma's old phone in a box, he said. In the closet. It still works if you connect to Wi-Fi. A pause. I've been saving it. In case. Anne. A 7-year-old had been saving a hidden phone in case he needed to escape something. I pressed my palm flat against my knee to keep my hand from shaking. Colby, what do you mean you haven't eaten since lunch? Where are the Murchisons? They went out to dinner. They go on Tuesdays. They locked the pantry. They locked the pantry. I stopped. They locked the pantry. And the fridge has one of those baby locks on it now, the kind you need 2 hands to open. His voice was so matter-of-fact, like he'd already processed the unfairness and come out the other side into something flat and tired. That flatness scared me more than crying would have. Okay, I said. I was already up, already moving toward my closet. Okay, I'm coming. Give me the address. You know where they live. I know where they lived 8 months ago. Did they move? A beat? No. Same place. I had my keys before he finished the sentence. The Murchisons lived 40 minutes north, in a subdivision where every house was the same shade of beige and the lawns were professionally trimmed. I'd only been there twice, once when Lance first introduced Renee's family, and once for Christmas 2 years ago. Phyllis Murchison had made a standing rib roast and talked at length about her kitchen renovation. Her husband Gerald had spent most of the evening watching football in another room. They weren't warm people exactly, but they'd seemed harmless. Competent, the kind of grandparents who sent birthday cards with cash and kept the guest bathroom well stocked with the good soap. I drove with both hands on the wheel and Colby still on the line. He'd moved from the laundry room to his bedroom. He said the laundry room got cold, and I could hear the small sounds of him settling onto a mattress, the creak of springs, the way his breathing slowed a little once he knew I was on my way. Tell me about your day, I said, because I didn't know what else to say and I needed to keep him talking. We had a substitute at school. She didn't know anyone's name, so she just called us by our seats. A pause. I'm seat 4. What happened at lunch? Another pause. Longer. They packed my lunch? It was half a sandwich and an apple. No drink. I asked the lunch lady if I could have a milk, and she said yes. But then Grandpa Gerald was there to pick me up early, and he found out, and he was really mad in the car. Mad because you asked for a milk? He said I was embarrassing them, asking for things. The flatness again. He said, I have to learn not to always be wanting. I didn't trust myself to respond to that right away. I focused on the road, on the white lines coming at me in the headlights, on breathing steady. A 7-year-old being told he should stop wanting food. Stop wanting a carton of milk at lunch. You're not in trouble, I said finally. Not with me. You did everything right. Okay. Okay, he said. He didn't sound like he fully believed it. They weren't home yet when I pulled up. The house was dark except for the front porch light on a timer. I sat in the driveway for a moment, calling Colby back, telling him to stay in his room and keep the door locked until I knocked 3 times. Then I got out of the car. The woman next door had her kitchen light on. Through the window, I could see the blue flicker of a television. As I stood there, trying to decide whether to wait in the driveway or knock and hope Colby could let me in, the neighbor's front door opened. She was maybe 60, gray hair pulled back, still in her day clothes at nearly midnight. She looked at me the way people look at strangers standing in front of a neighbor's house at night, careful, assessing, not quite unfriendly. "You're here for the boy," she said. It wasn't a question. I turned. "Excuse me, the little one. Colby." She came a few steps down her porch. "I've been waiting for someone to come. 4 months I've been waiting." She said it without drama, just a steady, worn-down kind of certainty. "I'm Harriet Voss. I live right there. I've been watching what goes on in that house." I introduced myself. Her expression softened a fraction. "He sits on the back steps sometimes," she said, "in the morning before school. I started leaving a granola bar on my porch rail. He figured it out after the second time. Never says anything, just takes it and goes back inside." She paused. "Last week I saw a bruise on his arm. I asked him about it, and he said he fell. Kids fall." But the way he said it, what way? Like he practiced. She looked at me evenly. "I've been meaning to call someone. I didn't know who. I didn't know if I was seeing what I thought I was seeing." A pause. "Are you going to do something?" "Yes," I said. "I am." The headlights of a car swung into the street then, and we both turned. A silver sedan pulled into the driveway. Gerald Murchison got out first, then Phyllis. They were dressed for dinner. Gerald in a sport coat, Phyllis in a blouse with a pattern of small flowers. They looked at me standing in their driveway with an expression that moved in about 2 seconds from confusion to something harder. "Tate," Phyllis said, and her voice had that particular brand of controlled warmth that means the opposite. "What a surprise! It's very late." "Where's Colby?" I said. "He's in bed, where he should be at this hour." Gerald had his keys in his hand. He looked past me to Harriet Voss, who hadn't gone back inside, and something flickered across his face. "Can we take this inside?" "I'd rather not," I said. "I want Colby. Tonight. I'm taking him with me." Phyllis laughed, a small, polished sound. "You can't just." "He called me," I said. "At midnight. He hadn't eaten since lunch. He was hiding in your laundry room with a phone you don't know he has because he was scared and hungry and he didn't know what else to do." I watched the color shift in her face. "He's 7 years old, Phyllis." Gerald stepped forward. He had the particular posture of a man who has spent his whole life using his size to end conversations. "You have no legal standing here. We have temporary guardianship. If you try to take that child, then call the police," I said. "Please. Call them right now. And while we wait, maybe you can explain to them why the refrigerator has a baby lock on it, why the pantry is locked, why your 7-year-old grandson is surviving on half a sandwich and granola bars he takes off a neighbor's porch railing." The silence that followed was the kind that has weight. Behind me, I heard Harriet Voss's screen door creak, and I didn't turn to look, but I knew she was still there. "He exaggerates," Phyllis said finally. Her voice had changed, the warmth stripped out of it now. "He's a dramatic child. He gets it from Lance. He showed me the lock on the fridge over FaceTime," I said. That wasn't true, but the way her eyes moved told me it wasn't far off from what I'd find if I went inside. Gerald and Phyllis exchanged a look, some kind of wordless calculation. "He can stay with you tonight," Gerald said, and the speed of the concession told me everything. "We'll sort out the paperwork in the morning." "We'll sort it out through my attorney," I said. "Tonight, I'm taking Colby." He was already at the top of the stairs when I walked in, backpack in his hands, stuffed dog tucked under his arm. He packed himself. I don't know how long he'd been standing there, but he'd been ready. He didn't say anything. He just came down the stairs and walked past me to the door, and when I put my hand on his shoulder, he leaned into it slightly, the way you lean into something solid when you've been standing in wind for too long. In the car, I gave him the bag of gas station snacks I'd grabbed on the way. Crackers, string cheese, a juice box. He ate steadily and quietly while I drove, watching the streetlights move across the window. "Are we going to your apartment?" he asked. "Yeah." "Do you have a couch?" "I don't want to take your bed." "I have a couch." "You're not taking it, you're taking the bedroom." He thought about that. "Okay." We didn't talk much after that, and I didn't push it. Some things you let settle on their own terms. He fell asleep before we hit the highway. The stuffed dog pressed against his cheek, and I turned the radio down low and drove. The next 3 weeks were the most complicated of my life. And I say that as someone who once spent 11 days dealing with a flooded apartment while also going through a breakup. I called a family law attorney the morning after, a woman named Mrs. Okafor, who a coworker had used in a custody case and described as someone who gets things done. She was direct to the point of bluntness, and I liked her immediately. Temporary guardianship is not the same as permanent, she told me. The court assigned it as a stopgap while your brother was in treatment. Given what you're describing, food restriction, locked pantry, documented weight loss, a neighbor willing to testify, we can move to modify, but you need to move fast and you need documentation. I had Colby seen by a pediatrician within 48 hours. His weight was in the 7th percentile for his age. He dropped 15 pounds since the last checkup on file, 8 months prior. The pediatrician, a careful, unhurried man who asked Colby questions directly and listened to the answers without interrupting, noted signs consistent with caloric restriction and referred us to a child welfare specialist. He filed a mandatory report with CPS before we even left the building. I called my brother Lance that night. It was a hard call. He was 4 weeks from completing treatment, doing well by every measure his counselors gave, and I didn't want to destabilize him. But he had a right to know. I told him everything, slowly and without editorializing. There was a long silence on his end. I thought they were good people, he said. Renee always said they were difficult, but I thought they'd do right by him because of her. I know. How is he? He's okay. He ate 3 bowls of cereal this morning. I paused. He asked me if he was allowed to have seconds. Another silence. When Lance spoke again, his voice was different, lower and rougher. I'm going to fix this. I know you are, I said. But right now, let me handle it. Focus on finishing. Come back healthy. He needs you healthy. He agreed. It wasn't an easy agreement. I could hear what it cost him. But he made it. The CPS investigation moved faster than I expected. Maybe because the neighbor's testimony carried weight. Maybe because the pediatrician's report was unambiguous. Or maybe because when the caseworker visited the Murchison house and saw the lock on the refrigerator with her own eyes, there wasn't a great deal left to interpret. What came out over the following weeks was this. Lance's wife, Renee, had a small life insurance policy. Not enormous, but not nothing. Enough to matter. The beneficiary was Colby, held in trust until his 18th birthday, with the provision that funds could be released early for documented childcare expenses. Gerald and Phyllis had filed paperwork to become trustees of that account 3 weeks after Renee's funeral. They had been drawing from it steadily. Groceries, utilities, a new fence, a weekend trip to a resort in Scottsdale, while systematically underspending on Colby's actual care. He was, in every practical sense, financing the life they wanted to maintain, while they fed him half sandwiches and told him to stop wanting. The judge who heard our modification petition was a woman in her late 50s, with reading glasses on a beaded chain and an expression that suggested she had seen most of what human beings were capable of doing to each other. She read the CPS report. She read the pediatrician's documentation. She heard Harriet Voss describe the granola bars on the porch railing, her voice steady and her hands folded in her lap. She heard from the school's guidance counselor, who had documented 3 separate conversations with Colby about being tired and having stomach aches, and who told the court quietly but clearly that she wished she had escalated sooner. The judge looked at Gerald and Phyllis Murchison over her glasses for a long moment before she spoke. Temporary guardianship was terminated, effective immediately. I was granted emergency placement. Gerald and Phyllis were ordered to have no unsupervised contact with Colby pending the completion of the CPS case. The court referred the financial matter, the trust, the unauthorized withdrawals, to the DA's office for review. She ordered the remaining funds in the trust frozen. Gerald started to say something. His attorney put a hand on his arm and he stopped. I looked at Colby, who was sitting beside Mrs. Okafor in his good sneakers and a collared shirt I'd bought him the week before because he didn't own one. He was looking at the judge with the focused attention of a kid who understood that something important was happening, even if he didn't understand all the words. The judge looked at him too, briefly, and something in her expression shifted. Not soft, exactly, but human. Present. Young man, she said. You have people in your corner. She glanced at me. Take care of him. Yes, ma'am, I said. Lance came home 6 weeks later. I picked him up from the bus station on a Thursday afternoon, Colby in the back seat, and when Lance opened the car door and Colby launched himself forward, I had to look out the window for a moment. Some things aren't mine to watch directly. My brother was different. Quieter, sturdier, more present in the way he occupied a room. He moved in with me temporarily while he found work and got his footing back. It was crowded and occasionally chaotic, and I wouldn't have changed a thing about it. Gerald and Phyllis ultimately faced 2 counts of financial elder. No, child financial exploitation in a civil filing and a criminal referral that resulted in Gerald pleading to a single count of misappropriation of funds. The restitution order required them to repay every dollar they'd taken from Colby's trust, with interest. They sold their house to do it. Phyllis wrote a letter to the court that the DA described to me as one of the least self-aware documents she'd ever read. I don't know what they told themselves. I've stopped trying to figure that out. Colby is in 2nd grade now. He joined a Little League team in the spring, an improbable decision for a kid who, when I asked if he wanted to try sports, said, maybe baseball because you mostly just stand there. He is, in fact, a reasonably good fielder, and he takes it very seriously. He still has the stuffed dog. It lives on his shelf now. Not under his arm, which feels like a kind of progress I'm not qualified to fully measure. Last month, he came home from school and dropped his backpack by the door and went directly to the refrigerator and stood there for a moment, just looking at everything in it, not taking anything. Just looking. What do you want? I asked. He thought about it. Apple. And maybe some of that cheese. Go for it, I said. He grabbed both without asking again. He ate them at the kitchen table, doing homework, like it was the most ordinary thing in the world. It was. That was exactly what it was. I chose Colby. I'd do it 1,000 times over without hesitating, without looking back, without needing anyone to tell me it was the right thing. Some choices aren't hard at all. They only look that way from the outside. I keep thinking about that refrigerator lock. Such a small thing mechanically. The kind you buy in a 2-pack at any hardware store, designed to keep toddlers out of cleaning supplies. Gerald and Phyllis put one on the fridge, holding their 7-year-old grandson's food. And then they went to dinner on Tuesdays in a sport coat and a floral blouse. And they came home to a house where a child had spent hours figuring out how to survive on what a neighbor left on a porch railing. What they didn't happen because they were irrational people. It happened because they made a series of choices that each required a little more willingness to look away. From the hunger in Colby's face, from the bruise on his arm, from the question a 7-year-old should never have to calculate, who can I trust enough to ask for help? That's what greed actually looks like up close. Not dramatic, not theatrical, just a slow accumulation of choices that each seemed manageable in the moment until you've built something monstrous out of ordinary decisions. And here's what I've sat with since then. Colby figured it out anyway. He found the phone. He charged it. He waited. He saved it for when he really needed it, because even at 7 he understood that you only get so many chances to reach out before someone takes that chance away from you. That kind of thinking. Quiet, patient, clear-eyed, under pressure, isn't something you teach a kid in an afternoon. It lives in them, or it doesn't. Colby had it. He used it precisely when it mattered most. I don't think I'm a hero in this story. I got a text, and I drove. What I want people to understand is what happened in the space between those two things. The moment I read his message, and the moment I put the car in reverse. There was no hesitation, not because I'm unusually brave or unusually good, but because some things are simply clear. A child you love is hungry and scared. You go. The clarity of it was almost a relief after years of situations that felt complicated and murky and hard to read. This one wasn't any of those things. What I hope Colby takes from all of it, not now, maybe, but eventually, is that doing the right thing and doing the hard thing are often the same action. That knowing when something is wrong and saying so, even when you're 7 years old and hiding in a laundry room, is not weakness. It is precisely the opposite. And that the adults who are supposed to protect you failing at that job is a fact about them, not a fact about you. Lance is the one who told me something that stayed with me. About 6 months after he came home, he said, "The worst part is I trusted them because trusting them was easier than looking." He wasn't being self-pitying, he was being honest. And that honesty, The willingness to examine the choice clearly without flinching from what it cost is what's made him someone Colby can actually count on now. We don't always get to fix what we failed to see in time, but we can decide what we do with what we know once we finally see it. That decision, made clearly, acted on without delay, is the only thing that actually changes anything.